Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. So let's start talking about the upcoming U.S.-Russia summit between Biden and Putin. I wish that I could claim to be in any way objective about this, but I can't be. The actions of Biden have been just too blatant to have any form of objectivity involved here. He's called Putin a killer. He's been setting up all these security apparatuses. I don't know. I'm not thinking. And now he's having the meeting with Putin subsequent to meeting at the G7 and talking. He has just continued this stream of how Russia is our enemy and Putin is a monster and all of this stuff. And after the G7, who did he meet with? NATO. There was literally no reason at all for him to meet with NATO. You can talk about Ukraine, but Ukraine is not part of NATO. They have not been admitted into NATO. The only reason that he might be meeting with NATO is to sell more weapons. Well, to sell more weapons, what do you have to do? You have to convince the buyers that they need weapons. And how do you convince them that they need weapons? By presenting them with how they're under so much of a threat. Well, the G7 didn't even view this. The only potential threat from Russia might be economic, but they have the freaking economy of a country the size of Spain, 1/27th of the EU. So they're not a threat that way. They haven't moved beyond their own borders except to assist Syria, to some degree Venezuela, and they're supporting the separatists, the pro-Russian separatists, and the Donbass. That's it. We're bombing 7 countries. We are increasing our presence in the South China Sea. We are right at Russia's doorstep. How would you feel if Russia had troops right along the Mexican border with the U.S. and ships in the Gulf of Mexico or along the California coast or whatever? This is very much what Putin had to say in his interview on msnbc. Freaking warmongers. They're the ones that host Rachel Madcow. And what has she been doing for 5 years now? 5 years she's been pushing Russiagate. Even if you make any claims which have never, ever been substantiated that Russia messed with our elections. Well, what has that got to do with militarism? What does that have to do with militarism? Not a thing. Some people still think that Biden is making some kind of a peace effort. And yet he has announced well in advance that he's basically going to threaten Russia. That's not peace. That's not peace. And Putin has heard all of these speeches and been informed of all the stuff from the White House website. I guarantee it. He knows about all of it. If you saw his speech at NATO And he couldn't even maintain his knowledge during one speech. He was confusing Syria and Libya he can't keep countries straight. And his speech was the absolute definition of dementia, of mental decline. It's not a question. So this meeting now is going to take place behind closed doors, as Biden wanted. That's not what Putin had suggested in the first place. But Putin agreed to it in an effort to actually achieve some level of diplomacy between the countries. Biden calls Russia an enemy. Putin calls America, a partner. What does that tell you? That alone, that tells you the difference in what is seen as diplomacy between these two leaders. Anyway, to make it worse, Biden has also refused to give a joint press conference after the summit. This is, a very big event. The meeting between these two, the leaders of these two countries, is a very big event. If you ever watch the summit between leaders of different countries after such a summit, a closed-door meeting, they come out at the same time and stand at separate podiums and give their own view on what the progress was of that meeting. Even when Trump met with Putin, that's exactly what happened. One on one side of the stage at a podium and the other at another. Now, Putin, again, has accepted this. He's not happy with it. It's not how things normally go. This is not how things are supposed to work. But he said, okay, all right, he will give a separate speech. What is the reason for keeping this behind closed doors and giving a separate presentation? What is Biden's goal? And the goal is to try and keep the very words of Putin under wraps. Well, that's not going to work either. You can count on progressive outlets like my own looking up and presenting Putin's side of the issue, what he has to say about it. Oh, by the way, I tried to watch that MSNBC, the full interview, but they don't have it up online as the full interview. They only have very select clips from that interview. And even from what I saw, Putin made the so-called interviewer, who was from the very beginning, even gave an introduction to the video, just expressing how anti-Russia he is. But Putin made him look like the idiot that he is. So if you're watching MSNBC, and then, don't expect very much from them except for lies, except for the manipulation of the narrative. Because that's all they've been doing for 5-6 years now. That is all they've been doing. And look at who advertises on MSNBC. I pointed this out so many times. Boeing, Northrop, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon. These are the people that advertise. These are all the major defense contractors, people that build weapons and bombs. They make money by you being convinced that there is something to fear. There has been no aggression by Russia against anyone. All right? So even in Ukraine, Russia, Putin, is still talking about Ukraine honoring the agreement that was made, back in 2014, I think, or earlier? So, and the only ones that are not honoring it are Ukraine, the ones that pushed up to the border of Donbass with Ukraine. So the ones that are, if Russia puts military equipment on their border, it's still on their border. They're not firing at anyone, but the Ukrainians are. So, there was no need for a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine because Russia wasn't firing. Russia is not shooting at anybody. They're providing equipment and logistics to the people in the Donbass that want to withdraw from Ukraine because they associate as Russians. That's exactly what happened years ago in Crimea. Crimea voted to leave Ukraine, and they are much better off today because they did. Their income has risen, their trade has improved, their tourism has improved. Russia is building infrastructure. They built a massive bridge to improve trade for Crimea. Ukraine, their infrastructure is collapsing. What choice would you make? All right. So don't expect anything coming out of this meeting between Biden and Putin. It's going to be held behind closed doors because Biden is not going to be able to, he knows he's not going to be able to stand up to Putin. Putin is calm, composed, and highly intelligent. It would not surprise me if Biden literally collapses in a seizure during this meeting. Of course, they'll blame Putin and say he somehow poisoned him. If I were Putin, I would say, no, you need a plexiglass wall up here. A bulletproof plexiglass wall. I really would. Like one hole to shake hands, or not even that. Fuck. I wouldn't trust Biden for that either. But there's nothing good that's going to be coming out of this. It wouldn't surprise me if Biden brings Hillary and John Bolton along with him. But the meeting is supposed to be just Biden and just Putin. But you can count on Biden bringing other people in with him. All right? And probably block any photographs, videos, recordings, anything. Something else is going to be blocked. You can count on it. All right. This is not a peace effort. Don't entertain yourself with that fantasy. All right. So please share this video. Talk about these subjects. If you can, please donate $1 a month to help expand the channel. And I'll catch you in the next one.